The Flying Spur. It started out as Bentley's tweenie, in between the GT and the Mulsanne. But a few years back, when the Mulsanne was retired, it became Cru's flagship, sharing the GT drivetrain, but delivering the Mulsanne's presence.
But this 2026 Bentley Flying Spur speed doesn't just match the thunder of that old school Bentley. It takes it to a whole new level. Welcome to the garage.
Subscribe to see the first drives of New Zealand's newest and best cars driven on New Zealand roads and New Zealand conditions. Saying the new Flying Spur out Mulsanne's, Bentley's former flagship, does sound like a pretty sweeping statement, but it's also pretty easy to verify. The most powerful Mulsanne speed had 530 horsepower. The Spur speed, 771.
Now, if you think that sounds like a lot for a car that is a limo, would you look at this? How plush is this? These seats reclined? You'd be right, but in the hands of an F1 world champion, this car is a track weapon in the shock and awe sense.
So, point proven, the Flying Spur speed is no slouch. Although we don't plan on sliding this car here in the South Island's Craigieburn Valley.
Although I can vouch for the fact that you don't need to be a former F1 world champion to drift a Bentley.
When you see the Spur in Onyx Black, a colour that uses a dash of dark blue to look even blacker, it looks almost too stately to have a wild side. But that only adds to the appeal. The grille is unique to the speed, and so is that dark chrome bonnet strip, which is a tribute to the Flying Spurs from the 1950s. Inside, it's all luxe, of course, and in this spec it is Peak Spur. The leather split of camel and beluga, don't you love saying that? With the piano black, it looks stunning.
This car has sort of multiple personalities. I want to talk about the Quiet right now because I've just gone into hybrid mode and we're currently fully electric. So this is the quietest four-door Bentley ever built. And because of that hybrid side, it's also the greenest four-door Bentley ever.
In fact, the last time we were here in this part of the world, we put the hybrid system to the test with the GT speed delivering, wait for it, 7.5 litres per 100 and a range of over 1,000 kilometres. But let's talk about the coolest thing, which is probably that retractable Flying V. But it's followed in a very close second by the performance, because this is not just the most powerful, but also the fastest four-door Bentley ever built. 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds.
That's in a 2.6 tonne, 5.3 metre long car. That said though, going quick in a straight line isn't exactly rocket science. What is though, is the way they've made this car go round corners. They really have thrown everything at making this big car dance like a prima ballerina.
That's because it uses an active chassis with air suspension, active roll bars, four-wheel steering, and this torque vectoring to make it behave like a car that is half the size.
It's almost a forget the laws of physics sort of impressive. I'm not making that up, and I know this is a limo on the back, but up front, man, this truly is a driver's car.
And this Spur speed has, well, some extra fizz thanks to the Akrapovic Exhaust, which adds not just sound, but an unofficial power boost.
Man, I love the noise that makes. But my reckoning, that unofficial power technically makes this car, because it's the first of the speeds to have this exhaust system, the most powerful Bentley ever to arrive in New Zealand.
When the modern Spur first arrived, it was very much a four-door version of the Continental. A couple of decades on, it has evolved into its own car, although it still has the GT drivetrain, or in this case, the GT Speed drivetrain.
But it's its own car, and with just enough majesty to carry the Mulsanne's mantle. But it does everything much faster, it's much more powerful, it's much quieter, much greener, much better.